So we're going to move into our next section here, having introduced it. We'll put those papers away. We won't need them for this next bit here. And this is the second section. This is really, I think, the most important of the sections today. You have in your folder a graphic organizer, and I wish I could tell you which piece of paper it was if they didn't show me. But it should be kind of something like, what should students learn in school? Is that the one there?
I think it might be.
Fantastic. It should be like, well, what should students learn in school? You don't have to use this. I'm not going to force you to take notes. I find myself that scribbling with a pencil helps me to remember. So if that's useful for you, by all means, use this. But it will not be graded, I promise. We're going to get to that in a moment. You don't need to worry about it quite yet. But I'm going to ask you, again with the tables, to answer a pretty big question. So I'm going to give you a full 4 minutes to do this. 4 minutes to answer a question that has bedeviled teachers since the beginning of education. You have 4 minutes, you'll be fine. And that is, what should students learn in high school? To figure out and to write down, make a list for yourself on your table, the things that you think a student leaving high school going to college should know or understand. I'll give you 4 whole minutes.
Are you asking what the school should be teaching, or what they should be learning in general?
So
during high school time period?
Yes, indeed. This is the latter. What you feel, what you believe a student should know as they leave this building, whether that is taught in the classroom or taught somewhere else, but what should they know? What is going to make them more like Jessie and less like Kate, shall we say? So you've got 4 minutes. Talk with folks, make a list. It's not graded. I'm thinking about what a student should know. Because that's why we go to high school, right? Is so we understand certain things that are going to carry us forward into class. So I'd like to just go around each table. We'll circle around a couple times and just share from each table one of the things that is on your list. And we'll probably see that there's some overlap from here. So what's one of the things on your list? Taking
How to learn.
How to learn. Oh, yes.
Sorry. Go down the list.
Exactly. So, and again, that idea that there's not one set model for that, but as was pointed out, that every person has certain things that they need to know that they learn best at. Absolutely. How to learn. Give me one.
Clarity of vision.
Clarity of vision. Oh, wow. Wow. We're getting poetic. Excellent.
Team effort.
That's beautiful. That's not beautiful. I should apologize also. I have horrible handwriting. It's not my fault. I was born left-handed, and my insane kindergarten teacher, Miss Hall, I remember her. She forced me to write with my right hand. So I write with my right hand. I do virtually everything else with my left hand. I'm sorry because of her. Give me one of the things on your list.
Organizational skills.
Organizational skills, yes, that massive one we talked about. Fantastic. In the back.
How to work with others.
How to work with others is enormous. Fantastic. Second table back here.
We said moral compass, family values.
Oh, huge. Moral compass. Wouldn't that be refreshing to have?
One thing we talked about was understanding of social norms and relationships.
Absolutely.
And how they're different than just your peer group. If you know what you get in the real world.
It sort of goes with this. This really is its own sort of thing. Really, I hate this marker. This is not my regular classroom, so they stole my marker. Just give me 1 second. I will try to find a better marker. I can steal one from next door. I'm clever.
So, I want to start.
I'm sorry? Yeah, the first time. There were pretty much no dropouts. I know that people
Fantastic. What else is on your list?
How to set, manage, and achieve goals.
Absolutely. And what else? How to ask for help. Oh, genius! Wow. Yeah, I wish more of us seniors knew that one.
something that pesters me at work all the time. Time management.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, we'll put this over here. I realize it's kind of the right thing. And back there.
Critical thinking.
Enormously.
Basic life skills, everything from finances to changing a tire.
Absolutely. So. Stable.
Just understanding and being prepared for how the workload in college is going to be different than
Absolutely.
it is now.
Excellent. So we've got some great ideas here from various people. Anything else anyone individually wants to shout out? Again, anything that you feel that students should learn in high school. By the time they leave this building, they should know this.
Having fun and being happy.
So having fun, being happy. What else?
Analytical skills.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So fun and joy. Analytical skills. Absolutely. Anything else? Shout them out.
Academics.
Fantastic. Academics.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
How to write a cohesive
Yeah, that's what
document.
Doug said back here is research skills. That's real important.
Including communication.
Yeah.
Then I have.
Fantastic. Anything else? How do of course, these lists could go on. We'll begin to get into a drift of these. Now,
How to deal with challenges?
pardon?
How to deal with challenges?
Absolutely.
And I would say it challenges and failures. Sometimes failures are the worst of all.
Absolutely. We actually carved the pedagogical model. So fantastic. Some great answers. And of course, this could go on for hours and days. Leaders and teachers have thought about this for centuries. Really goes back to Aristotle. But there's something rather interesting here. You have said this is what a student should learn. By the time a student leaves this building, heads off to college, this is a list of things that we want all of our students to know in order for them to be successful. What's interesting is that we are here in the chemistry lab. Not one of you mentioned the periodic table of elements.
Oh, we're looking at it right there.
It's right there. It's the whole world, right? And yet, it's a very comprehensive list. None of you mentioned periodic table of elements. None of you mentioned endothermic versus exothermic reactions or covalent bonds. That seems odd, doesn't it? That all the stuff you said we should know by the time they leave high school doesn't include the sort of things that when you think of high school, you tend to think of. The combatants in the War of 1812, or the Middle versus the late Kingdom dynasties of Egypt, or the periodic table. It seems odd that when we think of high school, we think of certain dates and figures and hard facts, and yet when we think about what students ought to be learning, it's not that. It are these other things. We can break these things down into 3 different categories. These sort of things, how to learn, a moral compass, setting and achieving goals, asking for help, time management, life skills, preparation for workload, fun and joy, that's enormous, thank you for that. Overcoming challenge and dealing with failure. We can refer to these as habits of success. That is to say that they are things that can be trained, that after time of training they become habitual, and they will lead to success. These are a little bit more what we might think of as what you would learn in school, although not in the periodic table or 1812 sense of learning. They are skills that involve cognition. So we call them cognitive skills. Clarity of vision, organizational skills, how to work with others. Again, this is relationships, critical thinking, analytical skills, writing clearly and cohesively, how to research and communicate, that sort of research. This is the sort of stuff that you do in your jobs every day. If you are successful in your job, I imagine that you have to write clearly and cohesively. I imagine that you have to know how to work with others. I imagine that you have to have some skill of organization. This is not just about high school or about college, but indeed success in the workplace. These are the cognitive skills that which combined with habits of success, will lead to success in college and beyond. And then the things you never mentioned are the sort of the hard facts and figures. The conventions of given language, the sort of dates and times. We refer to this as content knowledge. That is to say, the actual content of a class. This is a chemistry room. The content of a chemistry class is the periodic table, endothermic versus exothermic reactions, covalent bonds. That is where most high schools put their focus. A classical, we might think, a sort of Victorian chemistry teacher might think of themselves as completely successful if every student who left that chemistry class could name hydrogen, helium, lithium, barium, beryllium, the entire periodic table of elements. They had mastered the content entirely. But what we've just said is that the content, the facts and figures, the memorization of formulas, that sort of thing, is not what's going to actually be successful in life, but rather this, what we sometimes refer to as the hidden curriculum. The combination of skills and habits that we think people are going to actually use. In a traditional model, classes focus on content knowledge, and teachers hope that they might get cognitive skills and habits of success as a byproduct. Whereas you yourself have said, that's the point. The other things, the cognitive skills, while necessary, this is still a chemistry classroom. I still teach drama. The content knowledge is hugely important. It has to be taught along with these things. That this should be part of the formal curriculum, not merely a side effect that hopefully the students pick up along the way. I'll go even further with that. You are all grown-ups, I know, because you have kids going here next year. I would presume that you are all fantastically successful and joyful in your lives, and yet, when I mentioned endothermic versus exothermic reactions to you, I don't imagine that many people in here could describe the difference between them, even though I'm pretty sure you sat in a chemistry lab at one point in your high school career. When I talk about covalent bonds, I'm not sure anyone could give me a 3x5 card definition of that, and yet somehow you're all successful and happy. You all have children who have grown up and are going to high school, which seems to suggest that the content knowledge is not the key to success and happiness, but rather these things, which you wisely listed yourself, are really the main focus. And so that is the crux at the heart of our educational model. Which is not to say that we do not focus on content knowledge. We are, as I said, a college prep curriculum. Colleges require a lot of very rigorous knowledge. We have a very, very robust AP offering at this school. But just that along with that, we have determined that we want to teach these things in a formal way, as part of the actual curriculum itself. Not as a sort of thing that we hope the students might pick up somewhere along the way if they're lucky. So that is really the heart of the system that we use here. I'm going to, I apologize, I do hate PowerPoint presentations, but there's some information that would probably be easiest, so I'm going to turn on the projector here and get into sort of talking about the specifics of how we teach these things. So give me just, go ahead and take yourself, you've been talking for a while, take yourself to 5-minute break, grab some water. I'm going to erase the board, get the projector up, and we'll start in 5 minutes.